Awesome. Thank you all for being here. Once again, welcome to our December campfire that is centered around rest as restorative practice. Why have we been calling this thing a campfire? Well, we've started this series in May, and we chose campfire because restorative justice really at its core is around gathering and storytelling and relationships. And those are some of the same tenets that we find at campfires. Like a campfire, this virtual space that we've put together right here is a space of warmth. It's a place where we can bring our full selves and we're met with care. And in the spirit of bringing our full selves, I encourage you all to tell us who you are in the chat. We'll have some more opportunities to check in, but let us know who you are and what organization you are calling us from or community. So thank you all. Awesome. Awesome. So let us know who you are in the chat. Thankful for that. And also, just like a campfire, this space too is a place where we get to tend embers. You know, when that campfire is going and those sparks of fire get to flying. Well, for us, those are those small practices that keep the fire of justice, the fire of restorative justice alive. So this is a place where we can tend that. A campfire also is similar to this space as if it is also a space of reflection where wisdom gets to be shared across roles. And in this campfire in particular, I am really encouraging us to let's rest. Let's rest in our shared knowledge and our conversations with one another. And finally, we've called this place a campfire because it's also a circle of voices where each person, everyone on this call, has something valuable to offer and to lean into. So thank you all so much for being here. And once again, welcome to the campfire. All right. We are so excited for what we have in store today. But if you are new to the Community Restorative Justice Hubs, I want to tell you a little bit about us and our work. Well, our who we are, our mission, the Restorative Justice Hubs, we are a community-led collective. We do three basic things. We support each other as organizations across the city of Chicago to transform lives and systems by advancing restorative justice. That is who we are. So, as six organizations, also supported by Adler University and the resource section of the courts, we come together in a trauma-informed sort of space and framework, offering opportunities for reconciliation, healing, and growth. And we truly do believe that collaboration is needed to build stronger, healthier communities through restorative practice. As a collective, as a hub, we do believe that everyone deserves an opportunity to be safe and to be whole. And we know that that is not always happening, but we believe that it could happen, that it should happen. And our long-term vision is to see us all in right relationship with one another, just as RJ is at its core. So that is a little bit around us and who we are. Feel free to check out our website, rjhubs.org, for more information and to learn more about who we are and how we operate. Thank you all. All right, what's in store for us today? Well, we are gathered around this fire, this virtual fire, and we're going to do a bit of an icebreaker and talk about our own experiences of rest. So if you're able to use that chat, if you're able to unmute, we're going to make ourselves real cozy for this conversation. We're also going to explore rest through the Restorative Justice Hubs pillars. So you'll get a chance to see how us as a collective, how we look at rest and how it's shaped in the work that we do. On top of that, we'll continue thinking about our own rest practices and have some time to really share out and make some commitments in order to carry this fire forward. I want to pause here Is there anything else that you all want to add to the agenda? Something that you was like, I really came here because I needed to do or learn XYZ. Anything at all? And if not, give me a thumbs up. Awesome. Seeing those thumbs up go. Thank you all. Awesome, awesome, awesome. All right. Well, let's gather around this fire. We're here. Let's continue to talk about how we rest. You all, I saw this actually a few years ago on social media. I am definitely one of those people that will say, if someone says, "What did you do for the weekend?" And it's like, I didn't do anything, right? And that is always a short answer. But these are some reframes for I did nothing, some alternatives to that. Take a moment. I'm wondering if we can, if someone wants to read some of these out. Can we have a volunteer to kind of popcorn read these for us a bit? Anyone can hop off of mute if you're able. Your alternatives to I did nothing.
Oh, I can do it. Alternatives to I did nothing.
Mm-hmm.
I rested. I chose not to make plans. I listened to my body. I prioritized my needs. I shortened my to-do list. I watched the show I love. I was kind to myself. I took a mental health day. I allowed myself to recharge, and I gave myself what I needed.
Oh, thank you so much for offering those up. I don't know about you all, but for some of those in my body, I felt myself like wrestling with those. Like, oh, I listened to my body, but only after it was dang on there breaking down because I worked so hard. So I want to pause here and our check-in question. Can you share a time when you allowed yourself to fully lean into one of these without guilt or shame? Anyone can start us off. Feel free to use the chat, but share a time when you allowed yourself to lean into one of these alternatives without guilt or shame. You all. Right, right. Let's talk about that piece too. Thank you for sharing that without guilt or shame, not just there yet, but hopefully soon. Let's talk about some of the guilt and shame too if we want to get deep. If y'all ready for it, let's go for it. But feel free to unmute and share or continue to use the chat. I love this conversation that's happening in the chat around parenthood and how the guilt is there in our bodies. I resonate with that so much and feeling incredibly unproductive. Ugh. Anyone want to share more around like what those feelings or those bodily sensations are? Where do you feel it in your body in particular? It's real. We're naming it, y'all. We're doing the hard work. Napping without guilt. Yes. That is a huge one for me, especially as someone who, quote unquote, doesn't know how to nap. My naps are like 5, 6 hours, not just those like 30-minute ones, right? Mm, loving the conversation in the chat. I'm gonna read these out, also just for the sake of the recording if folks who view this later can't see, right? But if my work is done, my housework or interpersonal work is not done, right? It's hard to let people, including myself, down, and not be working all the time. I definitely agree with that. So much to do, so many challenges, and personally feeling like I'm letting people down. I feel it in my body and in my shoulders, definitely. We're doing the hard work already, you all, in naming what's coming up for us, the guilt, the bodily sensations, all of the things. One thing I want to name right off back is that rest is not a detour from justice work. We all, I imagine, are in our organizations doing really great work. And sometimes we think, I don't need to rest right now, or rest is not going to allow X, Y, and Z to operate how it should. But the point really is that rest is a part of how we sustain, right? Yeah. Thank you all. So, right now, in this moment, keep it going in the chat and I'll read it out. But right now, in this moment, we're practicing rest as something that we're actually naming, sharing, and protecting together. Mika in the chat says, in the past few weeks, I was in my home country and I felt no shame or guilt being in the moment and finding time to rest and be in community. I spent so much time with friends whose lives are so different every time we see each other, and it touched me how beautiful and colorful their lives can be. Thank you. I was struck by how heavy it is to currently live here and how important it is to put down the weight every now and then. So beautiful. Thank you so much for adding that. All right. I'm just allowing us to rest on this slide, you all. I'm allowing us to rest on this slide. Welcome, Rodney, who just joined us. We are talking about um, some of these alternatives to just simply saying, I did nothing, right? But also how difficult it can be for us to lean into these activities here without feeling the guilt and shame. So, welcome to the conversation. I'm going to keep us moving a bit. And here's another question. Feel free to continue to utilize the chat, or if someone does want to send their voice into the space, let's do that as well. The question here is, what people or experiences have influenced your understanding of rest? Really, what this slide is also asking is, who taught you how to rest? Yeah. I would love for us to lift up some names if we're able to come off of mute and share a story of, a person or experience that has taught us.
Yeah, I can go. Good afternoon, everybody. Rodney Webb, Restorative Justice Case Manager Specialist out of Louisville, Kentucky. I think my first insight into rest was just through my mother and her routine with like going to sleep, going to work, kind of the same song and dance that our parents had coming up in the 90s and 2000s and things. And so I just understood the importance of rest from her. I didn't necessarily apply it myself, but I kind of found I had to so my mother is the person who taught me how important rest was. I think I really didn't learn about the importance of rest until we started doing this work and like learning about trauma-informed care and conflict resolution and how your emotions and things can be affected, how you develop secondary trauma, as you do this work and things like that, just learning like self-care practices. But really just like in the making of the mistakes. Like at one point working at a previous nonprofit, I had different opportunities and I ended up having like two or three jobs at one time. So it was literally like take off of work, go to the next job, go to the next job. And so it was like I was avoiding sleep so much that when it finally hit me, I just like crashed completely. And so I think that's one thing that's important is that like I think sometimes we have to learn through like the lack of discipline when it comes to rest. We kind of find out the hard way.
Mm. I, Even how you just ended your conversation with naming rest as a discipline, like I think that's so important to name, especially if we don't come from traditions or culture that prioritize rest. It literally is something that we have to discipline ourselves, our bodies, our minds to lean into. Shout out to your mom, Rodney, for teaching you rest. Someone else wanna add? Who do you want to lift up in this conversation around the people or experience that's influenced your understanding of rest?
I can add a little bit more on mine. Um, Even through teaching the young people that we work with in the program or just in our personal lives. Like my young one stayed up super late last night just because all the adults in the house were up late and he didn't want to go to sleep. But the thing is, like, you got to be at school by 8:30. School starts at 8:40. And so you have to incorporate that with the kids early on, but even teaching them, like we kind of learn through teaching them because they are struggling to go to school or they might even be missing school. And you have to explain it to them like, well, you're saying that you're sleeping in class or you're not going to school or you're struggling with this sleep routine, but you're staying up late every night. And so it's like you got to kind of establish boundaries because you realize how important rest is as an adult. So you want to teach that to the young people that we serve, that they practice like having better sleep routines because that'll lead to better results in the classroom and just in life in general.
Absolutely.
I think as a culture, though, we learn a lot of very bad habits about lack of rest just out of necessity because sometimes you can't rest because everybody's got a side hustle. You have your job and maybe you have another job on the side, and it just even out of necessity, it's like it's difficult to live off of one income and not have other things going on. And I think that that is something that influences our ability to rest.
Mm, absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you all. Any other additions to this slide? I remember someone sharing before when asked who taught them how to rest. They also pointed to their mother, but they said every day after school, their mother would make them take a nap. Like before homework, before chores, before dinner, go and nap, right? And how that had became her practice going forward of like every time I'm done with work, I need to nap. I need to rest, right? And in a sense, we're talking very physical and literal about rest. So I wanna name that for us as well. Thank you so much, you all, for adding to this chat. Hustle culture is a very real thing. The relationship between eating well and resting is also there. Yeah, all of the intersections are very, very true. It's definitely an unlearning and even a returning to when we think about certain ethnic indigenous practices around rest as well. I want to share with you all. Anybody ever heard of the Nap Ministry? This amazing organization, Trista Hursley. She talks a lot about rest. And one definition that she gives towards rest is really this understanding of to cease, just to stop. Like stop, stop what you're doing in order to relax. And it's a practice first for us to refresh ourselves, to recover our own strength. And there's a few tenets that she's named for the NAP ministry. The very first one, I'm wondering if someone can read out loud number one for us, and I'll take number two. If someone want to go with one. Or I'll start one. So the first tenet says rest is a form of resistance because it disrupts and pushes back against capitalism and white supremacy. I think in this framing, we definitely see the idea that rest is pushing back against systems that really measure our worth by our output, right? What we're putting in. Number two, anyone wants to hit the second one, read the second one out loud.
Our
Our
bodies are a
body.
site of liberation.
Thank you. So yeah, she's saying our bodies are not tools. They hold wisdom and dignity. Elena, would you like to read number three?
Sure, naps provide a portal to imagine, invent, and heal.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, our imagination there, creating space to dream beyond survival. Absolutely. And number four, our dream space has been stolen and we want it back. We will reclaim it via rest. It gets a little poetic here, but many of us, or what she's saying is, many of us were never, we weren't meant to live this exhausted, right? So, how do we reclaim this state. So I definitely want to add that rest is not separate from our justice work. It's how we stay human while doing the work. I'm curious if there's a number here, 1, 2, 3, or 4, that's really standing out to you, whether you have questions about it or whether you're just like, yes, I feel that, I agree. Which of these tenets of the NAP ministry is sticking out to you? 2 and 3. Danielle, would you like to say more?
I think just the idea that naps and rest are a time for us to like rejuvenate and like that's needed to do the work as well. I think that's something I forget a lot. Like we need that in order to be productive.
Mhm. Thank you so much. Yeah. Oh, I appreciate this also in the chat. The distinction between getting rest and slipping into depression is too close. So intentionally avoid sleep sometimes. And 2 sticks out to you. Getting rest is a form of self-respect and care. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Um, 2 definitely sticks out to me because we live in a capitalist society that tells us to produce and go and do the thing, right? That our bodies is not the end goal, but what we produce is. This gives me that opportunity to say, nope, my body is a site of liberation. I have and I am all that I need, and rest is part of that journey for me. Yeah. Anything else sticking out to us about these tenets?
Yeah, I think about number 3. Um, rest is integral to like creativity and imagination. I think I've learned that over the last few weeks, and just like being able to create, to like tap into those creative juices, like, that imagination and things, it starts in childhood, but as you get older, you start to lose it, but you can get it back. And I think a lot of times we struggle with that as adults. Like, it's not necessarily us being childlike, but like still like daring to dream and to get creative and to figure out, how to maneuver and navigate through life as it is. So I think that rest is very important when it says it's a portal to imagine, invent, and heal. Like healing comes from rest, invention, imagination, creativity that, you can kind of stir that pot of imagination and creativity. You can fuel that back up just off of rest and giving a chance to like shut down and give your body a reset.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for adding that. I appreciate that. Yeah. Let's continue to think about rest, also in a way where we connected to restorative justice, right? The philosophy, the principles. The reality is that everything that we've named so far around who influences our understanding of rest, moments where we've rested without guilt or we wrestled to rest without guilt, what made rest possible, those are not just our personal wellness stories. Like that is a larger narrative towards restorative justice. The reality is presence here. We can't practice presence when we're depleted, and repair. We can't hold repair when our nervous system is in survival mode. And imagination, and Rodney was also just hitting at this too. We can't imagine alternatives or different structures and systems when rests have been stolen. And right relationship. You can't sustain right relationship if exhaustion is normalized. I'm curious, what are you hoping to lean into when you think about the conditions you need for rest? Are you in a place right now where you are trying to create more presence or repair or imagination? Or maybe you're writing relationships. Maybe there's another condition that's not listed. Thank you, Elena, in the chat. Right relationship with myself, right? Helps right relationship with others. I'm even just sitting here thinking about the feeling that I feel when I know that like I've made peace within myself or with someone else who I might have been out of relationship with, and how rested that feels to know that there's no tension, there's no beef there, but it can just feels good. Other thoughts coming up for you all on this slide? Mm, thank you.
Yeah, I think of repair. I think just trying to focus on how, rest can be a form of repair just with your body getting older and your body breaking down, knees getting a little weaker. You know what I'm saying? Not being able to, keep your memory as sharp as it once was. So yeah, I just think about repair and how rest can play a factor in that.
Yeah. Thanks for naming that. Yeah, our body physically needs that time to repair itself. There are some great things coming up in the chat. I invite you all to take a moment to read through this, right? But rest definitely creates conditions for presence and reflection. It makes us to think about what we choose to do with our days, our hours. Definitely is a balance being able to say no and continuing to be in right relationship with others. I'm going to use that as a sneak peek to say that our January campfire will be on restorative justice and right relationships and how do we hold the two. And rest definitely allows for creative imagination as opposed to worrying and anxiousness. Yeah, thank you all. Feel free to read through the chat. There's a lot of good stuff happening in there. A lot of good stuff happening in the chat. But yes, we need the right conditions so that we can rest, right? I think it gets at a conversation too around equity, right? And who has the time and access and resources for these conditions to exist, right? Thank you all. I would love to go into a conversation on, for us at the Restorative Justice Hubs, how we understand rest. The Restorative Justice Hubs, we have 5 big pillars that really guide our work. All of our hubs, while their mission and the work that they do might be different from organization to organization, they all have committed to 5 pillars. The first pillar being radical hospitality, right? Like there's going to be a space where people can come in and feel welcome. If you've been in other sessions, you've heard me talk about this before. But you can also see rest as welcome. When we create spaces where people are not rushed, right? Where they're not required to perform, there's rest there. I'm curious if anyone wants to maybe share where they might have felt rushed, right? Even in the work. Where they might have felt like they didn't really have rest as a welcome. Is there a time when that has shown up for you? Where you felt like you were in the work. You're working at a great organization, but it just does not feel like you have the space to take your time and not rush. And if anyone wants to share an example of the opposite, you can do that as well. Creating spaces where people are not rushed. Where have you felt rushed? Wow, even in circle, I would love to hear more on that process or that. Thank you for sharing that in the chat. Yeah, that's so interesting. Demetrius, I don't know if you're able to come off of mute, but I would love to hear that. I can kind of imagine how that could play out.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, even in just keeping time and trying to allow folks to rest in the circle and setting the time aside during circle for meditation. That's something I try to intentionally do, whether it's 10 to 15 minutes of the bulk of the circle work. It's just quiet time and self-meditation. And it's so hard to quiet your mind when you know at 2 o'clock you have to leave here to go get your kids. And, people are looking at their watches, and it's just like there's this constant need for, okay, I have somewhere to be, I have something to do, I have a responsibility. It's just like, even when you have the time, you just don't have the time.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for naming it, right? I even think about the fact that, like, especially depending on what type of circle it is, right? If it's a healing circle, we are so sometimes eager to get to the healing, to get to the community building that We don't allow ourselves to slow down, right? We don't bake in that time. That all of that is so real. I resonate with that. Any other examples come up for us? Everyday life, going to and from.
I
Yeah.
was thinking like when you have trusting relationships with people who have your back, you're able to rest more because you know you don't have to hold as much all by yourself.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thanks for naming that. And you're leading us into that second pillar of relationships, right? Rest as trust. Sustaining relationships really does require us to pause, to listen, to step back and say, oh, I need to repair this because we're out of right relationship in this moment. Yeah. I mean, imagine what happens to trust when we really allow space instead of the urgency. Yeah. Thank you all. So those are two of our pillars at the Community Restorative Justice Hubs. We are places where radical hospitality is front and center. And we are places where building relationships with young people, with community, right, with families is a priority. And rest is in the way in which we welcome people in. And rest is in our intentional pause. And it is in the way in which we build trust. Let's talk about a couple other pillars that we have at the RJ Hubs. Well, another pillar is accompaniment. And accompaniment for us means we're walking with you. We're right there. But guess what? Rest is about sharing the load sometimes. It's about saying you're not in this alone, right? Like there is opportunity for us to piggyback off each other, right? Relentless engagement. Rest is consistent. It's saying, I'm not leaving you. I'm going to relentlessly pursue and also go after systems that might not even align always, but it's showing up over time, which does require a dance between our pace and our boundaries and our care. And learning community. Rest is reflection. Someone mentioned that already in this training, that rest does create spaces where we get to learn, adapt, and imagine new responses. I'm curious of the three strategies or the three pillars here, rest as a way that we share the load with each other, rest as being consistent, not exhaustive, and rest as reflection. Where do you see these showing up in your work, right? Are there opportunities in your work where you are sharing the load? And how do you see that as restful, right? Or maybe you want to share rest as reflection. Which one of these pillars is shining in your corner of the world? Anyone can mute, unmute, or share in the chat. Many hands lighten the load. Yes, takes a village. Thank you. Another powerful question or even wicked question for us to think about too, especially along the lines of accompaniment or rest as a shared load. Where in your work are you carrying something that was never meant to be carried alone? Or where are you like taking on all of the work and not allowing it to be a shared practice? I gotta admit, I had to check myself earlier this week because I was like, oh, I got all of these things I want to do, and I am not really sharing the load here, which also shows up in a way in which I might not be listening to others and what they might need. This is open to any open thoughts or reflections that you all have as you see these three pillars on your screen. I'm curious too, from the perspective of relentless engagement. What helps you stay engaged without burning out, right? Because you can get both of those are almost like, oh, delicate dances. Staying committed and staying in it, staying consistent without the exhaustion. What does that look like? Yeah. The trust. The trust in others to facilitate the work while we rest. Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes even I've had to rephrase that within myself of even trusting that if the work is not done up to my standard or the way that I like it to, I trust that it will still be meaningful, right? Or we can recover from whatever might get quote unquote messed up in the process. Sometimes that reframe is also helpful as well. Hmm. Yeah. Let's take some time, about 3 minutes or so, to rate our own practices around rest. I have a few different definitions here. We're going to do a bit of a rest wheel, but I'm also curious if you all have ways that you define rest as well. So, what you're looking at on this particular slide, I invite you to either, if you're able, if you're feeling creative, draw a wheel out, like grab a sticky note, a sheet of paper. I'm going to do it too. Grab a sheet of paper, a sticky note, where you can actually write out these different components. You can draw the circle even. And what you're going to be rating yourself on a scale of 1 to 5 is how you show up in these different areas. So, on a scale of 1 to 5, when it comes to physical rest, this is that rest that supports our physical body. How much are you leaning into that? Mental rest and emotional rest. I'm happy to give some definitions, but maybe you all have some definitions for those as well. If anyone wants to maybe unmute and maybe share how they might separate these forms of rest, feel free to. If not, I'll give some definitions.
Karlyn, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Thank you so much, and I'm sorry I was late, and I'm
Right.
grateful for my friend and comrade who reminded me. But did you mean like in general or within the RJ Hub or for ourselves, or can you specify that a little bit or clarify it for just for me? I don't know if anybody else is
Absolutely.
confused. Thank
This
you.
This is all about you in this moment, right? Take a moment to think about where you are right now. Right now, how you're feeling in your body, in your mind, in your spirit, right? Um, where are you at if you had to rate yourself on a different scale? So, once again, we have physical rest when we're talking about our body, physical need to be able to recover. We have mental rest. Really, when we're thinking about rest that quiets our constant thinking. I don't know about you all, but sometimes my mind can go on and on and on. And how do I rest from that? How rested do you feel mentally? Emotional rest. Rest that really allows you to feel without trying to manage how you feel or perform, right? Where are you when it comes to that? Social rest. Now you could take this in a couple different ways. Maybe you are like retreating to or retreating from. But what does this look like in terms of your relationships, right? In a way in which they're nourishing at this moment. Whew. I'm grateful that where I work, we'll be given a few days off through up into the new year for some professional rest as well. How rested do you feel in that area? I'm dropping these in the chat, so you'll see them as well, some definitions for you. Spiritual rest. Rest that really helps you to connect back to your meaning, your purpose, something larger than the urgency that we see on a day-to-day. Where are you with that? And then I already saw someone in the chat saying needing to kind of make some time for creative rest. I'm right there with you. At the end of the year, I try to write a couple creative essays or poems capturing some of the books that I've read. But where are you? All right. I want to give us about 3 minutes to rate ourselves. And there's a blank there in case there's something that you want to add, an area of rest that maybe you acknowledge, but I have not yet. We got it. If you're feeling bold, you can put it in the chat as well, but these next couple minutes are yours. Number 1 to 5. All right, we got some ratings down. I would love in the chat if we can share our highest rating and our lowest rating. Elena's kicking us off already. Thank you. All right, you all. So your highest rating in the chat and your lowest rating. Let's go ahead and put those in the chat if you feel inclined. This is a no judgment zone. We're showing up to the campfire as our full selves, tending our own embers. In here.
Yeah, for me, I rated the highest. The only thing I gave myself well, you know what? I'm not even gonna give myself nothing a 5 because I don't think nothing's too good. Uh,
For honesty.
yeah, just being real. But I gave myself a 4 in creative rest, spiritual rest, professional rest, and social rest. And then my lowest scores, I gave myself 2s in emotional rest and consumption. In the blank, I put consumption rest. I was just trying to think of something, but it's just like we're consuming so much information. It's a lot. Um, and so I think that was just something for me personally, but I gave myself a 2 there and a 2 for social rest, and then I gave myself a 3 for physical and mental.
Mm, thank you. Rodney, would you like to share a practice that's supporting you in one of those higher areas? Like what do you think is helping you to really feel like you're in your creative bag right now when it comes to that particular rest?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think like so again, creative, spiritual, professional, and social, I gave myself 4s. I think there's a lot for me that I think comes into play, but I think one is that I'm very mindful of the spaces that I'm in and like the engagements that I'm involved in. Like I try to be specific with like what I'm doing with my time and you know while I'm at work. Like this, right? For example, like I could be doing case management. I could schedule a meeting with a client, but I know that this campfire is going on. And for me, this is not only a time to learn and to, you know, share space with other people in the work, but to me, this is like self-care. So I'm learning, but I feel like this is also sharpening my sword, not just as a restorative justice case manager, but just as a person. And that's what's really clicked for me in this work is that like this is more than just like helping out our community and our people. We're helping out ourselves. And that's how we can better serve others. And so like that's really a big deal. Like just being in the space and learning, like this is beautiful. And this is part of the work, right? But other people are different, right? There's nothing wrong with going to see, going to a therapist or going to the gym or taking a break playing video games, whatever the case may be. But just like even getting deeper in the work and really like learning like how you can better yourself as a person is kind of getting deeper into the work and having time and having space for that, especially in the places where people can relate because like I've grown to learn that I'm only going to have certain conversations with my family about the work because they don't all the way relate. It's always going to be like take your side, they're always going to encourage you. You appreciate that, but they really don't understand because they don't do the work that I do. So I value the spaces like this. I think that plays a big part in it. Um, yeah, and then just always thinking of ways, just trying to, learning how to pivot and adjust. I'm not a person that likes change, but when it comes to the kids and the young people, I feel like their circumstances can change, and a lot of times they just need that guidance and direction, and we can play a part in that. So I think a lot of times just with creativity is just in with the work that we do is like finding a way, whether it's a kid trying to get a job, a kid trying to stay out of trouble, a kid just trying to think positive or just be in a positive space. Sometimes you have to meet with clients more often than what's required, but it's what's needed. Like your job, you have to engage weekly, bi-weekly, but some of the kids need us every day, every other day.
Yeah.
So I think just finding the space in that and just kind of seeing where you can learn and benefit from, because a lot of times when we're able to do this work and make the impact, like the impact is hitting us, like it's hitting the youth and families and community that we serve. So for me, that just really plays a part. And I think another thing, and I'll stop is just positive thinking. Just trying to be optimistic. It's a lot of pessimism in the world. A lot of things that you really can't avoid. And things are just heavy right now. Losing kids, clients, being incarcerated, families being impacted just with the seasons and things like that. It's a lot. So just trying to stay in a positive place, whatever that looks like, whether it's, prayer, your Bible, music, sports, video games, talking with your people, even debriefing, cases and things at the job, things like this right here, just trying to stay in a positive space.
Yeah, thank you. All right. Rodney got us started, you all, with the buffet. Let's add to this, right? Some of the things Rodney's definitely mentioning is the way in which we are prioritizing our time, right? Rodney, you should definitely give us a survey because I loved hearing you talk about like I can be doing a lot of things with this here. Like this is care. We're gonna drop them survey links in the chat in a moment, but definitely share that with us. But the way that we prioritize our time, the way in which we give into positive thinking, debriefing with other people, having creative outlets. Come on, you all, let's add to this. Who else wants to share some of their strategies? Where did you rate yourself higher at, and what's helping you in that? Demetrius, I see you as you talk about you burnt out of the entire thing, but I need you to give yourself a pat on the back for at least one of these areas. Even if that pat on the back is a 2 or a 3, where are you shining right now at? Give yourself some credit because you're doing something over there. And anyone else want to jump in? For me, I want to borrow that language around consumption rest. It's been about almost 5 years now that I've been off social media. I only have LinkedIn. Feel free to add me. I'm not on there often, but I only have LinkedIn. And it has been really helpful to give myself that break from, I always got to keep up with the latest things and what's going on. But then you sometimes just ends up replacing one outlet for another. So I definitely am thinking about the ways in which I use YouTube Shorts. And I'm still thinking about the times that like, yes, I love reading. I'm an avid reader, but when do I allow myself the time to step back and process what I'm reading? This year alone, I was able to read 19 books. That is a lot of information. But when am I allowing myself to step back and really process these? Thank you all for adding to the chat. Danielle says, I'm not great at most of these, but I have been making a conscious effort to say no to some social obligations, trusting that people will understand that too much social obligation becomes an additional burden rather than a restorative experience. Yes, yes, yes. Yes. All right, you all. The last half of this workshop really is us. It's us creating this buffet of strategies. That's literally all I have. And if we end early, that is okay too. But I want to make sure that we're able to hear from each other on the strategies that we're cultivating, rather than just me as a facilitator sharing what to do. What are you all doing? Anyone else want to share some strategies or things that they hope to do? I'm gonna go back up. Elena, you put that you rated yourself physically a 3 out of 5, um, being most well rested. Can you share a strategy that you're using right now to support your physical rest?
Well, I think it's really important, like, in order to really rest physically, it's important to get also enough motion. And so, like, taking at least one 40-minute walk every day allows me to rest more completely.
Mm-hmm.
And I would like to do more workouts. I really should be doing more workouts, but I do feel like just being in that cadence is really helpful.
Thank you. Yeah, that physical movement, it matters. I've enjoyed seeing my kiddos get active with me lately. Like they've been curious of like, I want to walk on a treadmill, or like I can lift this 2 pound weight. Like let me do this thing, right? And I want to do this Zumba YouTube thing with you. So that physical is so cool. What else? What else? Earlier we mentioned soup and eating, right? And I think the food we eat and how that contributes to how we feel physically and the ways in which we allow ourselves to physically engage in rest. Yeah. Anything else we want to add about how we're resting? Yeah. Is anyone feeling really strong right now in professional rest? Anyone feeling like, okay, I found some strategies that work well for me. Rodney mentioned earlier debriefing, sharing our workloads, right? Being able to piggyback off one another. Anyone have some strategies that they're interested in practicing when it comes to professional rest, PTO, right? Yeah, taking that. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, if you all think of other strategies, let's drop it in the chat. This is supposed to be a shared buffet of strategies that we're walking away with, and there's been some great ones named. As you all are thinking of some strategies, I want to just give a break here and say this is our last campfire of the year. We've kept these going strong since May, every single month of being able to host these campfires. But we also want to hear from you. What are topics that matter for you? What do you want some future campfires to be centered around? How do you feel like these are even going? So I want to drop this link to the survey in the chat, an opportunity for you to share with us how these are going for you. And as a final checkout, I would love for us to maybe share, whether in the chat or unmute, what's one way that you plan on prioritizing your rest over the holidays? How are you prioritizing rest over the holidays? And maybe we can, I know some folks can't talk, so I don't want to popcorn it, but feel free to grab the chat or and a New Year's gift to Karlyn. That is so funny. That is hilarious. Yeah, as a New Year's gift. That would make me happy. But yeah, what are some ways in which you all are prioritizing rest over the holidays? I know for me, I'm gonna actually go back to our very first slide. Um, but some ways in which I'm prioritizing that rest is this list of doing nothing. I'm not going to really make plans. I'm going to listen to my body. I'll give it motion when it wants motion, right? I'm not going to have a big to-do list. If the laundry doesn't get folded the same day it's washed, I'm going to be okay with that. I'm going to be really kind to myself. What about you all? How are you going to prioritize rest over the holidays? Some good stuff happening in the chat. Leveraging that time off by planning ahead so you can rest later. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Taking breaks from social interactions. Yes, social events. Just time to yourself. That's beautiful. Okay, thank you, Danielle. Danielle was inspired by the wheel. She's going to take some time to sit with the wheel and see how she might can improve and leave some open time. Lena's going to do some reading and reaching out to people that she wants to connect with between naps. I love that. Anyone else want to share? I'm going to stop my screen for a moment. This is all so good. Reading, writing, cleaning. Yes. Of those 18 books that I've read, 18, 19 books that I've read, I'm taking my top 3 books and I'm writing a creative essay around it. And that's going to be rest for me. So looking forward to doing that too. Mika says she wants to leave her phone dead for a bit, right? To give her like really give yourself some consumption rest. I love it. All right, you all, a gift for you all so that you can rest. The session is an hour instead of 90 minutes. I want you to take that 30 minutes and challenge yourself to not fill that time with the busyness of what the work and the emails can be. But can you give this 30 minutes back to yourself? Can you go look outside or have a snack or listen to some music, do something that feels restful within your body so that you can recharge and be present. I'm so grateful for each of you all. Thank you for those who have been to many campfires before, for returning and putting this into your practice. I will say, let's stay connected. Oh, I stopped my screen share, but I did want to share with you all that the next campfire, be on the lookout for it. I'll send an email about it, but the next campfire, oh, I'm sorry, I should say January, my bad, January 29th. And we're going to talk about restorative justice and right relationships. So we'd love to have you join us next month, January 29th, as we talk about what it looks like to be in right relationships with ourselves and one another. The session survey is also there as we continue to think about topics for next year. But go in peace, you all, and do a whole lot of resting over the break. I'll hang around if there's any other lingering questions or thoughts. But take good care. You're welcome.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
Absolutely. Appreciate you.
Bye, guys.
Take care.
Thank you, everyone.